I honestly don't know if I'm the villain of my own family story or just the only person who finally decided to live in reality. But after what happened at dinner last night, my phone has been blowing up with hateful messages from my parents, my aunts, and even cousins I haven't spoken to in years. They're calling me cold, calculated, and heartless for homeless shaming my own sister. But tell me, would you keep a secret that would ruin your sister's life just to keep the peace? Or would you do exactly what I did and pull the rug out from under her the moment she tried to take what wasn't hers? I need you to listen to how this all went down, because I feel like I'm losing my mind. And I need to know if I was actually the jerk here, or if my family is just a circus of entitlement. To understand why this dinner turned into a total explosion, you have to understand the dynamic between my sister, Chloe, and me. Chloe is the golden child, but not in the way you're thinking. She's the golden child because she is a perpetual disaster that my parents feel the need to constantly save. I, on the other hand, have always been the stable one. I worked through college, saved every penny, and by the time I was 26, I had managed to buy a modest but beautiful 3-bedroom fixer-upper in a neighborhood that was just starting to get popular. My parents didn't give me a dime for the down payment, which I was fine with, but the moment I moved in, it became the unofficial family hub. If someone needed a place to stay for a weekend, it was my house. If someone needed to host a baby shower, it was my living room. For 5 years, I was the reliable one who provided the space for everyone else's lives. Chloe, meanwhile, was off finding herself, which mostly involved moving from city to city, racking up debt, and dating guys who lived in vans. My parents always praised her free spirit, while constantly asking me when I was going to get a bigger dining table, so the whole family could fit comfortably at my house. About 2 years ago, I started feeling burnt out. I loved my house, but I realized I was working 60 hours a week just to maintain a property that felt more like a community center than a home. Plus, the market in my area absolutely skyrocketed. Houses on my street were selling for triple what I paid. I realized that if I sold then, I could essentially retire from my high-stress job, move to a quiet coastal town, buy a smaller place outright with cash, and live a much simpler life. So I did it. I put the house on the market, but here's the kicker. I didn't tell my family. I know that sounds shady, but if you knew my mother, you'd understand. If she knew I was selling, she would have spent every day trying to convince me to sell it to Chloe for a family discount, or give her the equity. I needed a clean break. I found a buyer, a lovely couple, and the closing date was set for this morning. Last night was the final family dinner I agreed to host before the supposed big renovation. I told them I was starting. The dinner started off like any other. My mom was fussing over the roast, my dad was complaining about his back, and Chloe was sitting at the head of my table, looking unusually smug. She'd been back in town for 3 weeks, crashing on my parents' couch, and I knew she was up to something. Halfway through the main course, Chloe tapped her glass with a spoon. She stood up with this huge, teary-eyed smile and looked at my parents, then at me. She announced that she was finally ready to settle down, that she had found her forever home, and that she was moving in on Monday. My parents started cheering and crying, hugging her like she'd just won a Nobel Prize. I just sat there, fork halfway to my mouth, completely confused. I asked her, moving in where, Chloe? Did you find an apartment? She laughed, that condescending little sister laugh, and said, no, silly, I'm moving in here. Mom and Dad said since you're doing that big renovation and moving into a rental for a few months, I should just take over the house. They said it's time you shared the responsibility of the family assets. And since I'm family, I'll just pay you a little contribution when I can." My jaw hit the floor. My parents had literally given away my house to my sister without asking me, based on a lie I told about a renovation. They were all talking over me, planning which room would be Chloe's yoga studio, and how they were going to help her repainting the kitchen. They hadn't even considered that I might say no. They just assumed that because I'm the successful one, my property belonged to everyone. I looked at my dad and said, "You told her she could move into my house." And he just shrugged and said, "Well, you have so much and she has nothing. It's only fair, son. You're doing the renovation anyway, so the house will be empty. Why let it sit vacant when Chloe needs a win?" I realized in that moment that they had zero respect for my boundaries or my hard work. They saw my life's biggest achievement as a communal resource for Chloe's latest whim. I felt this cold realization wash over me. So I took a long sip of my wine, looked Chloe dead in the eyes, and asked her, "So, you've already started packing? You're ready to move in on Monday?" She beamed and said, "I already have the moving truck booked." So, that's the situation I was in. My family had decided, behind my back, that my house was now my sister's playground, and they were treating me like a landlord who didn't have a choice in the matter. I was standing on the edge of a massive secret that was about to blow their world apart. Before I tell you what I said next, and how the entire night ended in a police escort, I want you to pause right here. Go to the comments and tell me, what would you have done? Would you have played along to avoid the drama? Or would you have dropped the truth right there at the dinner table? I didn't hesitate. I leaned back in my chair and said, "That's going to be a bit of a problem, Chloe, because I don't own this house anymore. I sold it 4 weeks ago. The new owners are picking up the keys at 9:00 a.m. tomorrow." The silence that followed was so heavy you could have cut it with the carving knife. My mom's glass literally slipped out of her hand and shattered on the hardwood floor. Chloe's face went from smug to ghostly white in 3 seconds. My dad was the first to find his voice, and he didn't use it to ask where I was moving or if I was okay. He yelled, "You did what? You sold the family home." I reminded him very quickly that it was never the family home. It was my asterisk home that I paid for with my blood, sweat, and tears while Chloe was backpacking through Europe on their credit cards. Chloe started hyperventilating, crying about how she'd already told everyone she was moving into this mansion, and how I had embarrassed her. She actually had the nerve to ask if I could call the buyers and cancel the sale. I told her that's not how legally binding contracts work. My parents started screaming at me, calling me selfish and saying I was betraying the bloodline for profit. They told me I had to give Chloe half the proceeds of the sale so she could buy her own place since I had robbed her of a home. I started laughing, which I think was the final straw. I told them that not only was I not giving Chloe a cent, but that everyone needed to finish their wine and get out of my house, because I had a flight to catch in the morning and I needed to finish cleaning for the final walkthrough. It got ugly. My dad tried to refuse to leave, saying he wasn't going anywhere until I signed a promise note to help Chloe. I had to literally pull out my phone and tell them I was calling the police to report a group of trespassers. They didn't believe me until I started dialing. They left, but not before Chloe grabbed a vase off the mantel, one I'd bought in Italy, and smashed it on the floor out of spite. They spent the entire night calling me every name in the book. My sister is currently staying in a motel because she had already ended her stay at my parents' place, and they don't have room for all the junk she bought for her new house. I'm currently sitting in my new place by the ocean, watching the waves and feeling a weight lifted off my shoulders, even though my entire extended family has blocked me on social media. Looking back, maybe I could have told them sooner that I was selling, but seeing the look on Chloe's face when she realized her free ride had hit a brick wall was worth every bit of the drama. I've realized that being the stable one doesn't mean you have to be the dorm at one. Sometimes you have to burn the bridge just to make sure the people chasing you can't follow you to your new life. If you've ever had to deal with a family that thinks your success belongs to them, you know exactly why I did what I did. Like this video if you think I was right to sell the house without telling them, and subscribe for more stories about setting boundaries with toxic people. Share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section. Did I go too far, or did Chloe get exactly what she deserved? I'll see you all in the next story.